But do you personally believe that Al-Qaeda, ISIS-type groups are still at war with us?
I think, yes. I mean, I think
So we're still in a state of war with certain elements of radical Islam to this very day?
I believe that's documented, yes.
Okay. Now, what's the process to determine whether one's an enemy combatant under our law?
Well, I believe that the executive branch makes an assessment of whether or not someone is taking up arms against the United States somewhere in the world related to all of this.
Okay, so it's an executive branch function to determine whether or not this person qualifies as an enemy combatant
Well, I believe that they make a
under current law.
Under current law, I believe that determination is made by the executive branch and the person is detained. And then the question becomes whether they are able to bring some sort of legal challenge to that
They have a
determination.
habeas right.
Yes,
Okay, so the law is that the executive branch determines if you're an enemy combatant. And under our law, you can appeal that decision to a federal court through habeas. Is that correct?
I believe that's correct.
Okay. Is it your view that we can hold enemy combatants as long as they're a threat to the United States?
I believe that's what the Supreme Court has determined.
Okay. Did you argue that that should not be the case before in an amicus brief?
I'm trying to think. I had 2 amicus briefs that I worked on, or 3 technically, but 2 different cases.
Well, we'll have another visit tomorrow. So
Yes.
Go back and check.
Yes,
I'm pretty sure that in your brief, you argued that the executive branch should not have the ability to hold an enemy combatant indefinitely. You need to try them through some process or release them.
yes, Senator. As you were talking, my clients, the Cato Institute, the Rutherford Institute, and the Constitution Project, made that argument and asked me to draft their brief.
Yes. Well, do you agree with that argument?
Senator, my responsibility was to make my clients' arguments, and as a nominee to the Supreme Court, that's the kind of issue. The Supreme Court did not address that issue. They, in fact, the case became moot.
Did you organize an effort to get 20 judges to file a brief to the Supreme Court on this issue?
Not on that issue, no, Senator.
On another issue?
Yes, Senator.
Okay. Did you actively go out and recruit 20 judges to help you file a brief on another issue regarding law of war detention?
Not technically.
What do you mean by that?
What I mean is that I was at Morrison and Foerster, which was my law firm, in the Supreme Court and appellate group. One of the partners at Morrison and Foerster was a former federal judge who wanted to make this argument and who said, I have former federal judges who are friends of mine who would like to join with me to make this argument. So I worked with her, the partner at my firm who was a former federal judge, to make.
So it was her idea to get former judges to write this,
Yes.
not yours?
Yes.
And you just helped in the implementation of that idea?
So, Senator, as a member of the Supreme Court and appellate group in a law firm, that is the practice.
Right. Now I'm asking you,
Amicus practice, yes.
It wasn't your idea, it was somebody else?
Yes.
Okay. So now, there are people still held at Gitmo today. Do you understand that?
Yes.
Okay. What system is in place regarding their future?
I am not aware of the system right now. I'm not sure exactly what you mean.
Let me tell you what it is.
Yes.
There's a periodic review process made up of an interagency where they go through the files of these folks and they determine whether or not they still present a threat to the United States or the world at large. And I think it's 6 months, maybe a year. But that goes on, at least on an annual basis. And if there's a determination that this person still represents a threat to the United States, they're continued to be confined. That's the way the system works. Are you okay with that?
As a policy matter, Senator, I'm not speaking to my
As a-
views. That's my understanding is that the periodic review
Yeah.
system is an executive branch determination of whether or not they're going to continue to hold people that they
Does that make sense to you as a way to deal with these detainees?
Senator, I'm not in a position to speak to the policy or the discretion of the executive branch regarding how they're going to handle detainees.
The reason I mention it is because in one of the briefs, you argued that the executive branch doesn't have that option. That if you had had your way, the executive branch could not do periodic reviews about the danger the detainee presents to the United States. They would have to make a decision of trying them or releasing them. Is that not accurate?
Respectfully, Senator, it was not my argument. I was filing an amicus brief on behalf of clients, including the Rutherford Institute, the Cato Institute, and the Constitution Project, who
When you sign on to a brief, does it not become your argument?
it does not, Senator. If you are an attorney and you are representing a client in amicus.
Is that your position when you were in private practice? I mean, you sign on to this brief making this argument, but you say it's not your position. I mean, why would you do that if it's not your position? Why would you take a client that has a position like that? Now, this is voluntary. Nobody's making you do this.
Oh, Senator, I would refer you to the same sorts of statements that Chief Justice Roberts made when he came before the committee, which is that lawyers represent clients.
I
And
get
they
that. I'm not holding the client's views against you. The people you represent at Gitmo, they deserve representation. But this is a amicus brief where you and other people try to persuade the court to change policy. The policy I described is a periodic review. If the court had taken the position argued in the brief that you signed upon, we'd have to release these people or try them, and some of them, the evidence we can't disclose because it's classified, you're putting America in an untenable position. This is not the way you fight a war. If you tried to do this in World War II, they'd run you out of town. We hold enemy combatants as long as they're a threat. There's no magic passage of time that you got to let them go. So my question is very simple. Do you support the idea, did you support then the idea that indefinite detention of an enemy combatant is unlawful?
Respectfully, Senator, when you are an attorney and you have clients who come to you, whether they pay or not, you represent their positions before the court.
I'm sure everybody at Gitmo wants out. No, I got that. This is an amicus brief, and I just don't understand what you're saying, quite frankly. I'm not holding it against you because you represented a legal position I disagree with. I mean, that happens all the time. I'm just trying to understand what made you join this cause. And you say somebody hired you, but did you feel okay in adopting that cause? I mean, when you signed on to the brief, were you not advocating that position to the court?
Senator, as a judge now,
Okay.
in order to determine the lawfulness or unlawfulness of any particular issue, I need to receive briefs and information making positions on all sides. And
No, I got what a judge is all about. Listen, I'm not asking you to decide the case in front of me right here. I'm asking me to explain a position you took as a lawyer regarding the law of war, and I am beyond confused. I know what you said in your brief. whether I agree with it or not, it's not the point. I just want you to understand that it's important for all of us to know where you were coming from. If that brief had been accepted by the court, it would be impossible for us to fight this war. Because there's some people going to die in jail in Gitmo and never go to trial for a lot of good reasons, because the evidence against them is so sensitive we can't disclose it to the public. That we're not charging them with a crime. What we're doing is saying that you engaged in hostile activities against the United States, that you are an enemy combatant under our law, and you will never be released as long as you're a danger until the war is over or you're no longer a danger. That's the difference between fighting a crime and a war. Did you ever accuse in one of your habeas petitions the government of acting as war criminals for holding the detainees? That the holding of the detainees by our government, that we were acting as war criminals?
Senator, I don't remember that accusation, but I will say that.
Do you believe that's true? That America was acting as war criminals in holding these detainees?
Senator, the Supreme Court held that the executive branch has the authority to detain people who are designated as enemy combatants for the duration of the hostilities. And what I was doing in the context of the habeas petitions at this very early stage in the process was making allegations to preserve issues on behalf of my clients. A habeas petition is like a complaint that lawyers make allegations.
You know, I've been a lawyer too, but I don't think it's necessary to call the government a war criminal in pursuing charges against a terrorist. I just think that's too far. I don't know why he chose those words. That's just too far. But we are where we are. So let's talk about the nomination process. Have you ever had any interaction with a group called Demand Justice?
No,
Directly or indirectly?
no,
Have you ever had any interaction with a group called American Prospect?
no.
Do you know anything about Arbella? Is that the right term? Have you ever heard of a group called Arbella?
I've heard of a group that I think is Arabella or something like
I
that.
think you're right. Not
Yes.
Arabella. Yeah. Do you know anything about them? Have you had any contact with them?
No,
Okay. In your nomination, did you notice that people from the left were pretty much cheering you on?
a lot of people were cheering me on,
That's
Senator.
true. That's true. Did you know that a lot of people from the left were trying to destroy Michelle Childs? Did you notice that?
Senator, a lot of people were supporting various people for this nomination.
So you're saying you didn't know there was a concerted effort to disqualify Judge Childs from South Carolina because she was union-busting, unreliable Republican in disguise?
Senator, I'm a sitting judge. I was focused on my cases.
The answer is no, I didn't know that.
No, I didn't know that.
Would it bother you if that happened?
Senator, it is troublesome that people are or were doing things related to.
I think
The
that's the
nomination?
best way to say it. People have a right to speak out and pick the person of their choice. But all I can say is that if you miss the fact that there was an organized effort, well, here's President Biden has only a certain amount of political capital for keeping his party united. If he needlessly angers progressives on this SCOTUS pick, that could create all sorts of problems for him down the line. Jeff Hauser, revolving door projects. Let's see. I just got so many quotes. It's difficult to imagine someone with a record like Judge Childs winning votes from criminal justice advocates like Senator Cory Booker, even Dick Durbin. Childs' experience is nothing like the diversity of experience that the Biden administration has championed. Let's see. Picking her, Childs, would demoralize the base, side with corporate America. The fact that Lindsey Graham is vouching for her should give the White House pause. Our revolution, Joseph Gervangi, or whatever his name is, I'm sorry about that, Joseph. He's Bernie Sanders' PAC director. You didn't know that all those people were declaring war on Judge Childs?
Senator, I did not.
Okay. Well, no, I'm not saying you did. You said you didn't know. I'll take it at your word. But I am saying that what is your judicial philosophy?
So I have a methodology that I use in my cases in order to ensure that I am ruling impartially and that.
So your judicial philosophy is to rule impartially?
No, my judicial philosophy is to rule impartially and to rule consistent with the limitations on my authority as a judge. And so my methodology actually helps me to do that in every case.
So you wouldn't say that you're an activist judge?
I would not say that.
Okay. So we'll have 20 minutes more later on, but here's what I would say. That every group that wants to pack the court, that believes this court is a bunch of right-wing nuts that are going to destroy America, that consider the Constitution trash, all wanted you picked. And this is all I can say, is the fact that so many of these left-wing radical groups that would destroy the law as we know it declared war on Michelle Childs and supported you is problematic for me. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Graham. Let me mention a few points here. Congressman Jim Clyburn was a strong supporter of Michelle Childs, and now I believe he is publicly supporting your nomination. And Michelle Childs has been nominated by President Biden to be a circuit judge, and she will be considered by this committee as quickly as possible. On the issue of Guantanamo, there are currently 39 Guantanamo detainees remaining. The annual budget for Guantanamo is $540 million per year, which means each of these detainees is being held at the expense of $12 or $13 million per year. If they would be incarcerated at Florence, Colorado, the Supermax prison, federal prison, the amount would be dramatically less. Since 9/11, nearly 1,000 convicted in the United States on terrorism charges. Since 2009, with the beginning of the Obama administration, the recidivism rate of Guantanamo detainees released is 5%.
Mr. Chairman, according to the Director of National Intelligence, is 31%. Somebody is wrong here. If you're going to talk about what I said, I'm going to respond to what you said. If we close Gitmo and move them to Colorado, do you support indefinite detention under the law of war for these detainees?
I would just say I'm giving the facts. And
The answer is no.
I want to make sure that it's clear. The 31% you referred to goes back to the year 2009? 2000.
What does it matter when it goes back to? We had them and they got loose and they started killing people.
Well, I could just say that.
If you're one of the people killed in 2005, does it matter to you when we release them?
Suggest that a president of your own party released him in.
I'm suggesting the
Creating that
system has
danger.
failed miserably, and advocates to change this system, like she was advocating, would destroy our ability to protect this country. We're at war. We're not fighting a crime. This is not some passage of time event. As long as they're dangerous, I hope they all die in jail if they're going to go back and kill Americans. It won't bother me one bit if 39 of them die in prison. That's a better outcome than letting them go. And if it costs $500 million to keep them in jail, keep them in jail, because they're going to go back to the fight. Look at the friggin' Afghan government. It's made up of former detainees at Gitmo. This whole thing by the left about this war ain't working.
Let me also note that Larry Thompson, who served as Deputy Attorney General under President George W. Bush, Oren Kerr, Special Counsel, Viet Den, who served as Assistant Attorney General for Legal Policy in the George W. Bush administration, John Bellinger, and former D.C. Circuit Judge, Solicitor General, and Independent Counsel Ken Starr were also prominent conservative lawyers signing a letter defending attorneys who represented Guantanamo Bay detainees. I don't believe that we should associate that activity as being inconsistent with our constitutional values.